Hey, Greg here, founder of www.wrestling-divas.webs.com, your source for highlighting the most beautiful and deadly entertainers in professional wrestling. Thanks to everyone for tuning in via blogtalkradio.com for another exclusive interview on the behalf of my site. I am very excited today because I have a very special guest, and I am just waiting for her to call in, so if you please bear with me. She has made waves all across the independent wrestling scene in the United States and is the first ever transgender champion in professional wrestling history. And that's all of professional wrestling, WWE, independent scene, anything that you can think of. She is the first transgender champion in professional wrestling. So I'd like to introduce my next special guest, the Bloody Vixen, Amanda.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Hi, Amanda. How are you?
Bien, how are you?
Thanks for joining me today.
Good, thank you for having me.
Well, everyone who's heard about you knows a good deal about you, but this interview is to have viewers know even more about you and the story that you come from, because you have a very interesting background. But first of all, what made you decide to pursue professional wrestling, and furthermore, take that extra step towards being a wrestler? Because a lot of people in this watch wrestling are fans, but not every fan is a wrestler.
Well, I was a fan before I started wrestling. But the women, let's just say the women had a big impact on me being inspired to wanting to become a professional wrestler. I look up to a lot of the girls, and just seeing what they do made me want to pursue it, made me want to do it myself.
So those who know about your career know that you're the first ever transgender champion in professional wrestling history. And that's a very interesting, innovative thing that this industry hasn't ever heard of before. So going into this, were there any particular difficulties that you found, especially trying, when other people knew about that fact, and how did you overcome those?
You know what? I didn't really think about that much. I just went on and did what I had to do. Before I knew it, I was, doing shows and wrestling for championships, crap like that. Well, not crap, but things like that. I didn't really pay attention. I didn't really stop or think what people were going to say or do, or even take to me being who I am, what I am, and competing. Stop.
So when you went into the training process, I'm sure you had some expectations of how things would go, and the residual pain that you would feel, and all the physicality involved. But I remember you telling me before this interview that after the first day you couldn't even move for a few weeks. So what was that training process like, and especially being a woman training, because there are a lot less women in wrestling schools, generally speaking, than there are men?
Yeah, well, I trained at the Santino Brothers Wrestling Academy, and it's out here in California. I was the only transgender there, but there was also one other female there, and that's Thunder Kitty. She was probably the only female that lasted there, that was there from when I started till this day. That girl has been there, and it's tough watching her and seeing what she went through, because, it's totally different for me, because, I am transgendered. I do have, I have a physique of a male, I have the strength of a male, and for her, watching her, I knew it wasn't easy. The guys would get on her, because she's just not strong how the men are, and I understand, how it is for a girl to get in the ring. It's a lot harder. Things are a lot harder. Things don't come easy for women. And especially when it comes down to being, when it comes down to being physical in the ring, it's not easy for women to just get in there and give someone a perfect quarter roll or a 5-star bump. But it is difficult.
So,
I wasn't able to move for a couple of weeks after my first day of training. So it was really tough.
So, what do you think are one of the key differences between a man pursuing a career in wrestling and a woman pursuing a career in wrestling, other than the fact that it's a male-dominated industry? Because certainly, in a sense, there are a lot of people out there who are looking for women to perform because, women are pretty, and a lot of people want to see others rise above that standard and look at more of their athleticism than their looks.
You know what? I don't know. I don't know. I like to watch women wrestle. I like to watch the women wrestle over the men. I don't know. I mean, the men always execute things a lot better than the women do, but I love watching women's wrestling. I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one. Damn. Come here, Santino. Come here. Oh, my God, this is crazy. I'm sorry. Where were we?
No, it's no problem. I was just asking, you said that you enjoy watching women's wrestling much more than the males that compete in the ring, and I find that interesting. What about women's wrestling makes you more interested than the males who compete out there?
I don't know. I think you know what? I don't know. I think to me, I just find it more interesting. I guess I'm not a big fan of testosterone. I'm really not. I guess that's what it is. It's just, I think the women have enough testosterone, to where they keep it very feminine, but then they have, I don't know. I guess it's just I'm not a big fan of testosterone. Testosterone equals rude, cattiness. Too much testosterone, egos are flying everywhere. I'm not into testosterone like that.
Well, one thing that people notice about you is your character in the ring. You dress differently. Your character acts differently. You have unique entrance music. Your moveset is a bit different and not more, I guess, aggressive and less, catty and choke against the rope type thing. What was the inspiration behind your character? Because after all, you are the bloodthirsty vixen, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I mean, I'm my inspiration for my character, I guess you can just say, I love it rough. I'm a rough bitch when it comes down to being in the ring. I mean, I like a good choke. I like a good forearm. I like a good bump. I don't know. I just want certain women, and as a fan. When I first started watching wrestling, I looked up to women like Jazz, Ivory, and Lita. So, I wanted to be a little bit of all of those girls, a little bit and a lot less of the pretty, more prettier Tori Wilson and Stacy Keibler and whatnot. I've always wanted to be the roughneck girl. So, I mean, just watching those girls in the ring just made me want to be who I want to be, or who I am. I want to be a rough bitch. A crazy bitch.
So speaking of people like Tori Wilson and Steve Keibler, who did eventually, train to wrestle, but were certainly prevalent in the WWE as far as their looks go, and, Tori did Playboy. What do you think about the whole quote-unquote diva that the WWE is promoting out there? Do you think it's a positive role model for young fans who are watching these shows every week?
It depends on what they want or what they're looking for when it comes down to making a role model. Do they want Tori Wilson to be? Well, at the time they wanted Tori Wilson to be the role model, right? But yet she was doing Playboy. Now they have Kelly, the pretty little girl, but wearing booty shorts. in a little bra top. I'm confused with what they want to do with their divas. One day they're wrestling, the next day they're doing a little bikini contest. I'm all for it, I guess. That's what I want to do one day. Hopefully I want to get in one of those rings and wrestle in there, so I'm all for it. But I want to wrestle. I want to see wrestling and less of that. None of that little bikini, lingerie, lacy stuff.
So, in order to succeed in this industry, it is very tough to make it to a big company and to make a lot of money on the independent scene, because there is a lot of backstabbing between promotions and a lot of politics that go into wrestling. So a lot of fans may not realize this until they actually become a part of the industry itself. So what would you give as far as advice goes for succeeding from these demons and rising up from all the negative aspects of the wrestling industry?
Well, this is my trainer. My trainer's wife have always told me, and always tell new talent or up and comers, have a job, go to school. Wrestling is like a habit, and you got to support your habit. You got to have a job and something to fall back on. Don't just think that you're going to become the next Rock or the next Stone Cold Steve Austin and have it made for the rest of your life. You can have it made for a few years, but then what are you going to do after your contract ends? You're not going to have that money forever. So get a job, go to school, do something on the side, something that you can always depend on, or always have there to go back to. That's it.
So what would you say to the fans who, say, wrestling is the only thing that I've ever wanted to do my whole entire life, and I can't see myself being a part of a 9 to 5 every day? Would you advise them to think they're... I
advise everyone to do anything they want to do. Give it a try. If you want to try it. Do it. Live life.
Well, if I know you well, and I read up on your career before this interview, one thing that stuck out to me when you were out there in the ring, and I saw your matches against various competitors, is that you, again, like to be very aggressive and just very, I don't want to say dark, but you don't play games out there in the ring. And a lot of the times in these independent matches, there isn't the liberty of having the match recorded. So sometimes the only audience that will see that match is the audience that you're currently in front of. So how do you make the best of the in the now live aspect of a professional wrestling match?
Wow, you lost me there, but but I mean, you know what? I've performed in probably a crowd of 5 people before. I've performed in a crowd of a few hundred people. I always give it my all, even if I'm in training and I'm just doing a training match. I want to give it my all, because if I don't give it my all, I feel like I cheated myself. My trainer, again, always says, treat yourself, don't cheat yourself. So I always feel like I cheated myself if I don't give it my all. So I have to get out there, even if it's in front of 5 people, or even if it's going to be recorded for TV or something, pay-per-view, which are the most funnest, might I add. So performing out there in the ring is what many consider would be the fun part of living the wrestling lifestyle, but I don't think many people realize that when you get to performing in the ring, it's the end product of all the work that you've put in prior to wrestling a match. And it can be very frustrating sometimes for these performers to deal with injuries and to make sure that they get enough sleep at night and,
the traveling can take its toll from being away from family. So how do you, stay grounded when you're dealing with all these aspects that don't have anything to do with actually wrestling in a match?
You know, you confused the hell out of me again. That's twice. Why are you doing this to me?
I swear I don't intentionally try to.
Oh, my God. Okay, can you make the question a little shorter?
Okay. Well, it can be very frustrating sometimes dealing with the travel schedule and the injuries and everything before you even compete in a match. So how do you deal with all these different aspects of what make up a professional wrestling lifestyle?
Well, I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's just something getting into this business, you already know that you're going to get hurt. You already know you're going to be gone. You're going to be on the road. So it's something that you have to be immune to it. It's not something that you can just, I don't know, it's weird. Like, I wasn't even I've never really traveled outside of California before wrestling. So from wrestling, I've already, I was pretty much used to it. It was weird, though. It just, like, I don't know, I got accustomed with it because I traveled with New York, with Nikki, the New York Knockout. I've traveled all up and down California with that chick. And I got immune to her pretty quickly. Pretty quick.
So, given the circumstances of professional wrestling lifestyle, if someone has the right trainer in his or her corner, can they still succeed in this industry no matter what? So, in other words, can anyone become a successful professional wrestler?
Yeah, I think anyone has a chance of becoming a professional wrestler or successful wrestler. It just depends on how far you want to go as an individual. It depends on, how far are you willing to push yourself? Because as far as you're willing to push yourself, that's as far as you're going to make it. But, there's people that make good money in the independent scene and haven't even been to WWE or TNA or even to Japan, and they make enough money to take care of themselves. So it all depends on how far you're willing to push yourself, and and you gotta sacrifice a little. Well, not a little, a lot. You're gonna sacrifice a whole lot to be successful or to do what you want to do. But yeah, I mean, I think anyone can be successful in this business.
So that leads into my next question. What's your definition of how far you want to go? How do you fulfill your happiness with professional wrestling?
Well, my definition to how far? I'm talking about you're making money to where you're supporting yourself, you're living every day with pretty much no worries when it comes down to having to pay your bills. That's what I'm talking about. Sometimes people want to live that extra lavish lifestyle where they want to, spend a lot more than what they make, or whatnot. But me, I feel like I've already made it. I'm not making top dollar, but I'm seeing the country. I'm traveling, so I feel like I already made it. But I'm not living a superstar lifestyle. I still have respect for this business, and I still have respect for everyone, and I'm still paying my dues. I'm still setting up rings. I'm still setting up chairs. I'm still, helping at the concession stands. I'm still doing what I got to do, but at the same time, I'm having a good time, and I'm meeting tons of people. I'm making new friends. So I feel like I've already made it, but, it depends on how far you want to make it. Do you want to make it to the WWE? Do you want to make it to TNA, or do you want to make it elsewhere? I just wanted to be a wrestler. I just wanted to perform in front of a live crowd. That's all I wanted to do. So now that I'm doing that now, I feel like I already made it. Being transgendered, You know, that's a big roadblock. You know, it feels like a big roadblock, but I'm doing it. You know, I'm doing it. I'm alive. I'm healthy. You know, I feel good every day. So I mean, I'm doing what I got to do to keep me, you know, on that specific level where I feel like I already made it.
So when people look into your matches on YouTube or Google you or, you know, do your research, do his or her research on you, what do you want them to take away from you being a professional wrestler and, you know, being the only transgender champion in wrestling history right now? What do you want them to remember you by?
I want them to remember me as someone fearless, you know, because a lot of transgenders live their life in fear. I know I did. I lived my life in fear for a long time. So I want them to remember me as being someone who was fearless and someone who was competitive. I know there's a few other transgenders out there that are in the business, and they're, to me, in my eyes, they're champions already. You know, because it's not easy. It's most definitely not easy. Being what we are, trying to, you know, come into a sport or something that people probably won't look down on us, you know, like probably don't even respect us, I'm sure, you know, but whatever, you know, I can give two shits. I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks about me, you know, I'm living my life and I'm happy.
So before we wrap up and get to fans, how fans can contact you, if you could sum up your wrestling experience, your experience with your career and everything in just one word, what would that one word be?
Oh wow, one word. Let's say extreme. Because extreme can mean a lot of different things. So let's just say it's been extreme. It's been crazy. In a good way.
So how can fans keep in contact with you and be sure to keep up to date with all your bookings and your events?
Well, we can do via Twitter. So Twitter at Bloody Vixen. Spell it as is, Bloody and Vixen. Or SantinoBros.net, spelled as Santino, BROS.net. And that's it. You know, via those two websites, you can find me on Facebook. And, you know, my email for bookings or whatnot. Also with my YouTube and all that cool stuff.
Well, fantastic. Amanda, thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you luck in all of your journeys.
Thank you.
And I really, really appreciate you not living in fear and just going all for your dreams, and I'm sure you'll be successful if you keep your attitude. So
thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Have a nice day. How do you turn your phone off?
So thanks to everyone else for tuning in to this interview. Be sure to check out www.wrestling-divas, and that's divas with a Z, .webs.com for more exclusive content and interviews.